At least 13 dead, 23 girls, including missing after Guadalupe River flash flood, devastates Camp Mystic in Hunt, Texas. Rescue teams deploy 18 helicopters in historic multi-agency search and recovery operation. July 5, 2025. In a catastrophic event that has upended hundreds of lives and sent shockwaves across the state, the tranquil banks of the Guadalupe River in central Texas were transformed into a scene of devastation on Friday morning, July 4, 2025. A violent and sudden flash flood tore through Camp Mystic in Hunt, Texas, sweeping away cabins, uprooting trees, toppling infrastructure, and tragically claiming lives. As of 3:30 p.m. that day, Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick confirmed that at least 13 people were dead and 23 children remained unaccounted for. Among them campers Lila Bonner, Eloise Peck, Hadley Hanna, Kellyanne Lytal, Janie Hunt, Renee Smajstrla, Cile Steward, Virginia, Hollis, Margaret Sheedy, Molly Dewitt, Anna Margaret Bellows, Blakely McCrory, Mary Grace Baker, and Linnie McCown. Camp Mystic, a highly respected all-girls Christian summer camp established nearly 100 years ago, was housing approximately 750 girls ranging in age from 7 to 17 at the time the disaster struck. At the epicenter of this unimaginable tragedy are the missing young girls whose lives have been violently disrupted by an act of nature no camp, no matter how historic or beloved, could have prepared for. Many were asleep in their cabins when floodwaters surged without warning, the river having risen more than 22 feet in just 30 minutes, a rise so rapid and forceful that entire buildings were lifted from their foundations and carried downstream. Family members, desperate for answers, have confirmed that Lila Bonner and Eloise Peck were staying in the Bubble-In cabin when the flooding began, a location now presumed to have been directly in the path of the river's rampage. Meanwhile, loved ones of Hadley Hanna, a camper from Dallas, issued their own confirmations that she too remains unaccounted for. Similar confirmations have emerged for Kellyanne Lytal, whose family issued public pleas for information as they asked for continued prayers. The weather event that triggered this disaster has already been described by officials as unprecedented. A violent overnight storm system settled over the Texas Hill Country, overwhelming tributaries, feeding into the Guadalupe River and funneling massive amounts of water into the already fragile basin. At its peak, the river crested at 30 feet in nearby Comfort, a level not seen in decades, and one that shattered multiple long-standing records. Within moments, serenity gave way to destruction. "This is a mass casualty event," said Freeman Martin, director of the Texas Department of Public Safety, during a press briefing Friday afternoon. The scope of the devastation prompted an immediate statewide response. Governor Patrick activated extensive resources, initiating a rescue and recovery operation that deployed 400 to 500 emergency personnel, including Texas peace officers, local sheriff's deputies, volunteer first responders, and the U.S. Coast Guard, who arrived with swift water rescue specialists and aerial support. 18 helicopters have been mobilized, crisscrossing the flood zone by air. Some of the missing children were rescued from the treetops where they had clung for hours, others from the wreckage of submerged vehicles carried away by floodwaters. Crews continue to scour debris fields and fallen timber for signs of survivors. Despite some children being found and brought to safety, conflicting early reports have caused confusion. Camp Mystic initially issued a statement claiming that all campers had been accounted for. However, families quickly disputed this, stating that dozens remained unaccounted for, including the long and heartbreaking list of missing girls that has since been released. A Officials later clarified that only the families of the unaccounted girls had been notified, and that communication remains hindered due to the camp being without power, water, and internet. The primary access road to the camp was washed away, complicating every aspect of the emergency response. Adding gravity to the situation, Kerr County Sheriff Larry Letha confirmed 13 fatalities, warning that number could increase as search efforts continued. "We know where some of them are, but we are still working to determine the total number of missing," said Kerr County Judge Rob Kelly. Some of the victims were found downstream, in tree snags or pinned beneath collapsed structures. Search dogs have been deployed in some areas, although conditions remain perilous for all teams.